that when you're under stress, sometimes people don't realize, but it's really a choice.
In a proactive manner. But even if it's a sudden thing, if you already know what tools you're using, you can pull them out at any time. So more is getting in than you realize.
Yep.
So you got to be very careful what is surrounding you.
Yep.
This one thing has to happen the way we said it for it to be our big win. But along the way, we don't see the small wins that were happening. We don't give credence to those small wins unless this big win took place, right? So you got to celebrate all along the way. Hello, this is Dr. Judy Wright. Welcome back to the Balance to Excellence show. If you are here, thank you so much. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And, hope you get something from today's show because I am very excited to interview my next guest. Okay. Our next guest is Angella Kiwanuka Booth. She's a nurse and she's the owner and founder of LifeSpark LLC, which is a woman-centered care company. Angella is a gold certified hypnobirthing childbirth educator. And she's a certified hypnotherapist and health and wellness counselor with over 10 years of experience as a professional registered nurse. Her passion for empowering mothers toward positive births and personal growth led her to build two businesses, not one, two. LifeSpark LLC, which focuses on health and wellness, and Palate Delights, a Caribbean cuisine catering business. Angella's journey has been deeply shaped by her own experiences with natural childbirth and her commitment to helping women achieve a balanced, flourishing life. We are excited to talk to Angella. I follow Angella on LinkedIn, and I'm telling you, it's always good stuff. It's always calming stuff, but it's always informative. So I'll tell you right now to look out for her, and we definitely will share that at the end on how you can, follow her and even connect with her once we are at the end of the show. So welcome, Angella. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine.
Thank you. So, did I miss out anything or say anything wrong?
No, not at all. You actually hit it all. And as I'm listening to it, I'm like, okay. I'm impressed with myself. So,
right? Everybody always says that. They're like, who's she talking about? They always say that, and I know how that feels. It's like, is that moi?
Right. No, it's like you're doing a resume, and unless you write it down, you're like, oh wow, yes, I've been short selling, but yes, and yes, and yes, and yes.
Yes, right. You're like, I know, but to hear somebody say it all together, you're like,
yes,
that person sounds impressive. Oh, that person's me.
Amazing.
So, Angella, can you tell us your journey? Like, what led to you even wanting to or becoming a nurse and then becoming an entrepreneur, double entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, they would call you at this point?
Right. I actually started out wanting to do law, as in criminal justice. And, with my background, I was always passionate about helping people, and it was either justice or healing. And so right out of high school, I was like, oh, I think law is it. I'm going to go do law. John Jay, here I come. And sure enough, in the midst of it, I'm like, you know what? My heart says something else, and healing it is. So I took the journey towards nursing, and it has been a very, satisfying journey. It still is. And
did you start criminal justice and switch, or did you, before you could start,
before I
make
could
that pivot in your
start,
brain?
right? So, as a matter of fact, I believe I did. If I remember correctly, I did a semester, And then I was like, you know what? Sciences are what comes so much easier for me versus the, social studies and everything else. And I
Yeah.
switched. But still, it was an amazing journey. And I met so many friends along the way. And here we are now with nursing. I started out with, inpatient, outpatient care, um, as far as being a home health aide from the ground up because I wanted to get all that experience and really get my hands on as far as, you know, having obviously earning and then going through the whole journey of nursing school. It definitely wasn't easy, especially when you have a lot of schools that are on a waiting list. And so starting out there through the nursing home and then getting the RN and from there exiting inpatient to outpatient. With that, I got a lot of insight with, bedside care and how there's a lot of movement to outpatient. So I was looking at the longevity and, of course, security, for career. And having moved into long term care, it has opened even more. To me as far as insight and more knowledge. And it's like, oh my goodness, right? There's so much out here that is needed for not just health, but wellness on a preventative level. And of course, empowerment of the patients that we care for so they could be their own, I would say their own go to, like they have it in within them, you know? And of course,
Mm-hmm.
motherhood then occurred, which then catapulted me into my next growth level. And speaking of motherhood, um, I've always, raised, being grown up in Africa. I'm from East Africa originally. Food is medicine. Food is everything. And so, having seen obviously the differences in the cultures, I've seen how food definitely could do that balance for us. And that's when my first entrepreneur journey started of Palais Delights with Caribbean and Jamaican cuisine, catering for, um, vegetarian or anyone who just likes more spice in flavor on their palate. And through COVID, there's a lot that happened with changes and so much that happened with, with the isolation and the confusion that was
Mm,
going on in the world.
yeah.
That in itself opened eyes to me as far as we need more information. And there was a major growth in not only home births, but people just wanting safe births and being able to have the births their way. So not only was my own experience actually what definitely um, brought me into that path of wanting to get onto that journey, it has definitely been it has been a humbling experience. Very
I
humbling.
have to say, well, first, before I forget, okay, we're gonna have to talk about offline this palette, the lights. We're gonna because when I read your bio about the palette, the lights, and full disclosure, I know Angela outside of this interview, but I did not know that she had this company. So I said, Jamaican. I said, wait a minute, right? How does she? And I was like, we're gonna have to have a conversation about
Mhm.
where that is, and I'm gonna need an address, and or if it's a catering, I'm gonna need to understand, right? So kudos to you. But let me tell you what just struck me. Out of the pandemic, a lot of things came. One of the things that came that was big was maybe not so much while we were on lockdown, but more when it was time to go back and people were like, out
Yeah.
of that came like a rise in homeschooling, right?
Yes.
But what
Yes.
I did not think about until you just said it, what I never thought about until you just said it, was the idea of people wanting more home births. Because during the lockdown, a lot of these women were going into that hospital by themselves
Yeah.
to give birth. They didn't have any of that support on that level. Or
Yeah.
even if you were going for a surgery, like I had to go for surgery. And my first surgery was before, my first two surgeries that year were before lockdown. So I had people in with me. But
Mm-hmm.
my third surgery and my fourth, I had to get dropped off and I had to be in that hospital by myself. There was nobody in the waiting room, nobody, really to
Yeah.
advocate for me if necessary in the building that was personal to me. Not saying that my
Mm-hmm.
doctors or the nurses wouldn't have, but personal to me,
It's
nobody
different.
was in the building. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember just feeling not for me, kind of devastated for these women that were going in to give birth. So it never occurred to me that more women were like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I want to start talking about earlier. I mean, obviously, if they were already well into their pregnancy, they may not have a time to set it up.
Right.
But but the ones that found out during the lockdown that they were pregnant, it may have changed their thinking. And until you said it
Mm-hmm.
as something that could get presented to them, and they're saying, because I know I never considered having a home birth, but I can't say that
Mm-hmm.
had I been a pregnant woman during the lockdown, I wouldn't. That may have changed my whole thought process around it. So that's really interesting that you thought of it that way. That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
And a lot of mothers, because what ends up happening too is there is that component of mental health and wanting for your baby, wanting for your health and your safety, right? Now we have this, of course, pandemic going on. And when you're bringing a child into this world, you just want nothing but butterflies and cotton candy and all the beauties. And I do know that when there is a pandemic going on, you want to just keep safe. So then, of course, the home birth one, no brainer. And so doing the hypnobirthing has been very wonderful for mothers and their companions. And I do know that in that, instructions, they get to also learn about being informed and what can they do as far as advocating, making informed decisions. And, you know, it is, of course, coming through hypnosis. And so they get to learn lifelong skills, right? And it's really not just about the birth, it's life beyond birth. And that is
Yeah.
the most beautiful thing about it. Yes.
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask you a question
Yes.
that you probably, or you may have been asked before, probably you were. And I'm going to ask you so you can explain to audience what makes a hypnobirthing specialist
Mhm.
separate or different from a doula?
Yes. Yes, that is a common question. Now, in my scope, I would be an instructor versus a
Mm-hmm.
doula who will be a companion. They will go through from A to Z. And there are actually different doulas. They do a spectrum. They could be with you either during the pregnancy, the birth, and then there's postpartum. There is also doulas that actually do work with moms should there be loss. Unfortunately, that also does occur. So the
Mm,
main difference is with my scope, I'm mainly an instructor giving them decision making tips and navigating the terrain understanding their body chemistry, understanding how they could use relaxation, breath, hypnosis, self hypnosis to remain calm no matter what happens. So, for example, we may have a mother who is well into her pregnancy, everything is going well, it was a natural birth, and of course, and the unforeseen happens, and now they have to go a different direction for the health of mom and child. Being able to grapple with that change is not always easy for parents, and it actually does cause what may turn out to be birth trauma for mom, right? And so with hypnosis and hypnobirth, I would say, they get to learn all those skills and really having that open mind that whatever comes my way, I'm ready, you know? And of course, they get to have fearless births, and this could be in any setting, you know? And no matter the outcome, they still have that sanity and that zen with them, regardless of the support staff, regardless if the doctor that you know was going to be there to give the birth is now not there, right? And so it really helps you to prepare for most of the circumstances. Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you another question then.
Mm-hmm.
We've often, I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't do it. Okay. I'm not trying to, I just didn't do it. You know how they have those labor classes?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Yep.
And I just couldn't even see myself and my husband. I said, we're going to sit in there laughing, even though it's not funny. That's just the nature of who we are. So we
Right.
didn't do it. But how is that different?
Now, the
You
difference
know?
is that there are definitely multiple classes out there.
Yeah.
What makes this different is that it does more towards you learning the physiology of the birth, the pregnancy, the nutrition, all of that. But it goes into you learning yourself, your self care. Nutrition is a big part of it. And personally, I actually use hypnosis myself for birth of my two children. And one of the profound experiences that I had with hypnobirth, having learned about nutrition, I was actually diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and really going towards the trajectory of having a cesarean for that child's birth. But I was able to turn the tide with hypnobirth. And I actually not only had a natural birth, but I had a home birth. And so obviously you have to do the work. But,
Yeah.
with it, you learn so much, the positioning, especially in this day and age where we have so much comforts with the bucket sits. A child is not turning as they should with that head down, by 30 weeks and onward, 32 weeks. And so that is what we call a bridge position. With hypnosis, you're actually able to work naturally with your body and get that baby to be in the right position for their regular birth. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so, learning, are there any limiting thoughts? It does occur, and unbeknownst to most parents, they may be the reason why the child is actually not turning. They may have limiting thoughts, which we may say, are they worried about finances? How am I going to feed this baby? Babies are expensive. Are they concerned about job security? They may take a maternity leave and then maybe go back and there's going to be a change. All those things happen. Even for dads, they are always invited and they may have their own thoughts. Am I going to be a good father? Am I going to be able to provide? And
So you're saying that the limiting thoughts of even the father
yes,
can mess with the hypnosis that is necessary to get your body
that's
to
right.
do the miraculous things, to get the mother's body to do the miraculous things that needs
Yes,
to be done. Because
yes.
birthing ain't easy.
It's all
Birthing
about that
ain't
energy,
easy.
right? So if the couple is in sync, mom and dad, or whichever partner parent they are in the family unit, right? Especially now with our modern families, they're able to lean on each other for comfort. And so if the other partner is pulling away and not providing the support, emotional support especially, then mom is going to be concerned about, of course, baby, but there's a family unit, right?
Yeah.
Are we going to be going through certain things like separation or divorce? What's going on here? When you have a more close, neat family, everything is just more on a positive note. There's more support for mom. She feels safe. Baby feels safe. She feels
Right.
loved. Baby feels loved. The minute she feels threatened or anything like that, guess what? Mom feels everything,
Yeah.
and so does the baby. So it's a ripple
Absolutely.
effect. Yeah.
That is absolutely true. I
Mhm.
100% agree with that. It's so important, and I know not everybody has that luxury. Not
Yes.
everybody is in that environment, but it's so important to stay as calm as possible. The
Right.
environment is not just the uterus. It
Mm-hmm.
is so much.
Yeah.
they even, and that's why you see women putting entire headphones on their on their abdomen playing classical music, right? To
We actually
try
go
to
over
keep,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
We have something called
So
bonding with the baby where they actually go through an exercise to bond with the baby, and we reinforce that. We give them a recording to listen at bedtime or any periods of stress or early in the morning to set those intentions. Because, we all have to work, we all have things to do. And going through the day, there's a lot of stress that we have to go through. But by listening to those recordings, it really reminds you to condition yourself. Just right? And
yeah,
funny enough, even when the child is listening to it, they know when it's time to come. And once the child is born, I know there are instances where babies actually fall asleep faster listening to those recordings in the background. And
right.
it really goes a long way as a family unit whenever they do it as a even for couples. It's like, hey, it's time to do this. And I have seen so much amazing transformation with couples because it even helps marriages when they have that love chemistry going on. The partners are involved, dad is involved, you name it, and there's that love cocktail. It really has more oxytocin for the couple as well, to get closer as they're
Yeah.
bringing life into this world.
And I can imagine that even as you're teaching
Mm-hmm.
both parents, or even if it's not two parents, maybe a parent and a support person, um, these things, it's not just for the moment. If
That's
they're
right.
really taking it in, it's it's mechanisms, coping mechanisms,
Yes.
and stress reduction mechanisms that they can take past the
Yes.
pregnancy to
Yes.
continue to utilize and keep the environment good for them and
Mm-hmm.
for the new baby that has now come. Is definitely something that they can take on. And I love how you said that we all encounter stresses in life, which we do, because I always say stress is inevitable. And one of the things that I teach is the inevitability of stress.
Mm-hmm.
But you can reduce stress, you can manage stress. One of the things you don't want is for stress to be long term. You don't want it to be chronic. You want to know how to cope with it, shut it down
Mm-hmm.
quickly, but in a positive way, because there's a lot of ways that people call themselves trying to shut down stress
Mm-hmm.
that is not the healthiest of ways to do do it.
And
That's
that's
not
the
your best.
beauty about when you learn the hypnobirth, but there's a hypnosis too that is just for stress management, which they get as well, whereby they learn to use more of their parasympathetic nervous system versus their sympathetic. So what I mean is that when you're under stress, sometimes people don't realize, but it's really a choice, right? I'm not saying you're gonna say, okay, I want to be stressed out today, but it's your reaction. Hence, when I say it's your choice. Um, and so what I mean is that when they get those tips, that they're able to know when to avoid or alter situations. And they are also able to, say, okay, I'm going to accept the situation. And now what is going to happen, right? So
Hmm.
with that, of course, the breathing, the guided imagery goes with them, the meditation goes with them, those instructions go with them.
Yeah.
And they even are able to have those skills now told to their young ones, which is going to be so profound because children need to learn how to also cope with stressors as they grow up.
Yeah. And I love how you said that. And some people may say, well, I didn't choose this. No,
Mm-hmm.
because what I get from it, from what you said, is similar to what I say. Like you want to take back your power and your control. The stressor is external. There's
Yep.
always going to be stresses out there, and it's external. The stress is how you experience it, though,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's important for us to know because we don't all have the same triggers.
That's right.
And we don't all, and even if we have some of the same triggers, we don't all feel it the same way, right? So for some people they're a little scared when they have to talk on stage, but
Mm-hmm.
some people are in complete and utter panic mode, breakdown, right? So both people experienced the stressor was the being on stage. Both people experienced it, but they experienced it differently, and then it comes, that this is your trigger. So what do you do? What do you even do ahead of time to get your mind right, to get you ready? It's so
Right.
important. So people should realize it is a choice
That when you're under stress, sometimes people don't realize, but it's really a choice.
in a proactive manner. But even
Mm-hmm.
if it's a sudden thing, if you
Yeah.
already know what tools you're using, you can pull them out at any time. So I think when people realize and say it's a choice, they realize you have some control because sometimes we feel like we don't have
Yes.
any control, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, no, no. Take your control back because you
Yeah.
do have some control.
Yes, that's right. And when you're thinking about it, and it could be anywhere. So when you get those skills to be able to just tap into them, you can then work in. It could be any situation. Road rage. You're driving home. This person is, doing all kinds of things, and instead of having the outbursts, you're learning to be self-aware, right? And therefore self-regulation. And the beauty about that is that also learning your body sensations and learning when, it's time to just like, oh my God, I'm so tense. I'm gripping this, the steering wheel like it's going away. Just being mindful about your surroundings and even your breath, and coming back to your breath. It's the simplest things, and it's,
Yeah.
skills like that you learn that are definitely restorative, that would definitely go a long way. I do know some folks may need treatment, as in medication or chemical treatments that work for them. But even in research, with hypnosis being applied in treatments, after an average of 6 sessions, there's actually 93% success rate. 93% success rate of those treatments, whether they're using cognitive behavioral therapy, you name it. And so, which is why they are so empowered by the time they leave the class. And I've used them myself to overcome stressors that I have in my businesses, actually, and my day to day as a mother, as a wife. And
Oh,
yes, it's been my secret sauce, really, when they say, "How do you do it?" And it's like, well, besides, the self-care, there is absolutely something that is non-negotiable, is my self-hypnosis. And there's always that light bulb like, oh, really? That actually works? It's like, yes. Would you like to learn more? But the truth of the matter is that we are actually all always um, on that path when you're reading that book that you're like so enjoying watching that movie, or what we will call roadway hypnosis as you're driving. And sometimes you don't even know how you got to your location when you're driving. And it's like, yeah, that's actually a part of it, similar to daydreaming,
oh,
or when you're
that's
sitting
that's so
there,
true.
right? You're fantasizing in your supermarket, getting whatever you're grabbing. You're fantasizing about, maybe whatever date you had or an upcoming date. What are you going to wear? So you're in your creative mind, It's all there, and that these are all thresholds of hypnosis, and it's the safest. It could be done virtually, it could be done in person. And one of the things that most people learn is self hypnosis, which is then they know how powerful their minds are and how much they can achieve, be it, as you mentioned, performance anxiety, especially with stage fright, um, or even, sports for our athletes, and, changing habits overall doesn't come easy for a lot of people. And that's because when they are relying mostly on their, what we call the conscious mind, there's always going to be a way where our brain looks for the path of least resistance. And so there's always going to be that excuse. And the reason why you cannot work out this morning, or why you're going to just put it off until tomorrow. And so, with hypnosis, you get to really empower your subconscious mind, the mind that actually controls those, what you may call instincts, to then, by that point, you're not going to have those excuses. You're just going to be automatically getting it done. And you're going to be actually surprised by the results, because you're able to, get the results you need. And as long as you do the work, the results just show up.
You talked about the fact that you, for one of your pregnancies, had gestational diabetes, and there were
Yes.
some things that you did to turn that whole situation around. So, in
Mm-hmm.
your classes, do you incorporate about nutrition in that
Yes.
part of the journey?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, we do. We talk a great deal about portions, about food selection. We talk a great deal about the time of when you eat. It matters, and it's one thing to have wonderful quality food, but if you're eating it at a time where it's going to work against you, for example, as um, mothers are in expecting stages, the digestive system changes along with the pregnancy, as there's less space, there's a lot more issues with constipation. And so if they have a diet that is poor in refuges or fiber, that is going to be a battle, even bloating or feeling gassy. So learning what foods work for them and the best time to eat those foods. For example, if it's a salad, maybe you may want to eat it during the day, so that at the night when you're, going to your rest, you're not going to be affected by heartburn, because those vegetables are going to take a while to get digested. And just knowing what doesn't work for them, eating the rainbow, we like to call it, and what to avoid. Especially nowadays that we have a lot of individuals gravitating to vegan diets, and they're able to get everything they need to have the nutrition that mom needs and baby needs as their body grows through all those changes, which will then result to a positive birth. Now, for me, when I had my condition, I actually simply had changes in, believe it or not, my portions. I kept everything that I was eating. I ate my rice, I ate my porridge.
Right.
Um,
I'm not
yes,
giving that up.
I'm like, right? And you have
Right.
cravings as a mom, and so
Right.
you want those foods, and so clearly then I was making sure to move as much as I could, tolerate uh, gentle movement, stretching, and it really helps a lot to get the readings where they needed to be. I was able to not have to take any medication, clearly, and out of the pregnancy now, when a mother is, of course, having that condition, I so understand where they're coming from, the restrictions alone,
Yeah.
and having to
Yeah.
check your finger, to prick yourself, I should say, after the meals. And it's like, oh my gosh, I really wanted that ice cream, but I can't have it now, and so, yeah, it can ruin your day. So, those are skills that you take with you, especially that we know research shows majority of women that have gestational diabetes, end up having full blown diabetes later on in life. So learning those skills really helps them to just stay healthy, on their life's journey.
Right. So let's pivot a bit because I
Yes.
want to find out a little bit more about you. You did talk about people asking you, how do you do that, Angela? How do you do that? And you said, besides my self care. And I was like, whoa, because self care in my head is such a priority.
Yes.
You know, but I know you were just saying, besides my self care, there are other things that I do. So, how do you prioritize self care and mental wellness, especially having a demanding career as a
Mm-hmm.
nurse, you know, a demanding career as an entrepreneur of two businesses, a personal life that you
Yes.
have. You're married, you have not child, you have children, and I'm sure other family members and friends. How do you prioritize self care and mental wellness among all of that?
Yes. Great question. And I have learned to non compartmentalize my self care. It's actually become a family affair, to the point where when I am doing my self hypnosis, should the children be home when they're out of school, we're doing it together. And so they stay calm, I stay calm.
Teaching them how to do this.
Yes. Yes. My oldest is actually 13 years
Oh,
old. And so, and he actually loves it, the most out of the little ones, I would say. And so
so we're gonna
they
need to
love
talk about
it.
this too.
And I've seen the changes even in grades at school, right? And
Hmm.
uh, with the mannerism and the behavior. So they're more composed, they're more calm, and as am I. Now, of course, with general making time to do the self-care, the exercising, which is a must because you need to have a positive outlet. We all work out together. So if I'm gonna go for a stretch, then we either I go first and then you go next. That's how we definitely do it. And I love those long walks. I frequent boardwalks, and so we just go as a family and we just do it. We all come home tired and exhausted, just wanna rest. And I've seen that it helps a lot with most of the goals we all have, which is the bedtime, um, and having less snacks. When we do meal planning, we do it as a group. As far as this is what's going to happen, because I find that meals are a major part of a family, and so by planning them together, again, being a part of self care, children have very different nutritional needs, of course, but being able to have them grow to have those flexible palates where if tonight we say we're going to have some ackee and saltfish, then so be it. They're going to just say, oh, wow, yes, this is great. Or, what, guys, tonight there's so much going on. We may have to order out, but what are you going to order? Being mindful of what you're going to order. Of course, not just the meal options, but ensuring you have your greens. You can order anything else you want, but you have to have your greens. And so, with that, the major basics, the foundations is hydration for me. Anywhere you see me, I always have either a cup of tea or some water. But yes,
Yeah.
I really just keep it to the basics. And I've found that integrating family within my self care has been a game changer for me, and to also keep me motivated because if you skip, they skip, right?
Mm.
So if you sort of say, guys, today is not happening, they also learn it's okay to rest. It's not always about the go and the boardwalk and the hypnosis. Sometimes you just need to be. And we also actually, do that together. So you know what? No. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah. So you're modeling for them.
Pretty
That
much.
that's really good. That's really good. And I do agree in terms of they're always looking,
Yeah.
right? So there's different things. Even for my children, once years ago, I didn't do it. I wasn't doing breath work at all years
Mm-hmm.
ago. And my husband and I we're going to a therapist, and finally she said, "You need to learn how to breathe." I was like, "What are you talking about? I breathe. That's how I'm here. I'm alive. I breathe." She's like, "No, you need to learn how to breathe." And then she looked at my husband and said, "You are a respiratory therapist. You need to teach her how to breathe."
Yeah.
Right? And now I'm always like, okay. And when I started out, when she said that, I was like, this is so stupid. Right? And now I'm like telling people, you need to learn how to breathe, and let's stop being cute about how you breathe too, because, some people, they're breathing like this. No, right? I
That's
tell,
right.
especially women, I said, stop trying to suck in that stomach. That stomach, that diaphragm is supposed to go down. That stomach's supposed to push
Yes.
all the way out.
That's
That says
it.
that your lungs are filling up.
Yes.
You know, I said that stomach. This is not time to be cute. You're trying to learn how to how to be mindful, how to put yourself in a
Right.
particular mindset, how to keep yourself calm. This is not
Mm-hmm.
time to be cute. You could, when you're doing your exercises and you have to hold your core, that's the time to hold your core, not right now, right?
Yeah.
But that took a lot for me to do. And now I'm also big on doing it to model it for my children, right? Especially my son, because
Yeah.
he needs it. Like, he gets anxious about a lot of stuff, so he really
Mhm.
needs it. Like, let's stop everything. Okay, let's stop everything. Right now, we're on here. We need to get down to here,
Yes.
right? Or
Yes.
maybe down to here.
That's it. But to what you were saying, when you get in all that oxygen into those lungs, that is where the relaxation comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And, believe it or not, even when we're doing smoking cessation, for folks who want to say, okay, I'm done with the vaping, I'm done with the smoking, that's the first lesson they actually get is doing those abdominal breathing, because that's all they've been trying to do this whole time, right? As they're taking that deep breath. But now they no longer have to take in the toxins, and
Right.
they learn to, right? Just breathe, let it relax you. Even for moms with those preparations for childbirth, the more you have in that oxygen, you're breathing it in, all those, chemicals that need to get you relaxed, the oxytocin, all those are going to be on board. But if you're like, guess what? Right? And it could be anything on your mind, whatever the case may be. Of course, you're going to tense up. Everything is going to be, you're not going to breathe right. And your
Right.
mind is not getting the oxygen it needs. Less oxygen, more tension, more oxygen, more relief, more relaxation. With every breath they take, the baby takes. And so breathing is fundamental. Yeah.
Yeah. It just helps with the relaxation of those muscles too, and not just the muscles everybody knows in their arms and legs, but even the muscles in the blood vessels. The
Yes.
the the constriction you feel in your head that's leading to the
Yeah.
headaches. Start
Mm-hmm.
taking those deep breaths. Start
That's it.
taking really good deep breaths. You know. Um. So that's good. But what I want to know
Yes.
is, I know you're incorporating the self-care with the family, but is there any particular self-care thing that you do that is just Angela?
Yes.
Because I
Yes. And
believe
yes.
in having something that is just for me.
So I love acupuncture just for
Oh,
me. Yes.
oh.
I have a acupuncturist that I frequent. I actually went to them postpartum in my recovery, and
Mhm.
now for maintenance. And I find that, once I have my treatments, I am just like, oh, I feel so much better. And I also have a cranial sacrotherapist that I actually see. So believe in the body's ability to heal and rejuvenate itself. And so I do use these holistic practitioners to charge me up. That way I could then be the best version of myself for, my family and, my teammates at work, and, my clients, for my business. And whenever I skip, I notice it. I would get more headaches.
Mm,
It's like, did you drink your water? Yeah, I've been drinking water all day, but there's something there, like you have that tension you're holding on to. I'm able to process any emotions that may have gone through the week that I may have put off. um,
right.
you know, because things occur, you're in a meeting and a phone call comes in like, hey, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, but not right now. I'll deal with it later. And so, of course, that later may come, but now something else is happening. And so, seeing my holistic healers, as actually I like to call them, it really gives me now time to own up to whatever I got to process within myself, right? To then um, not put it off. And I just can afford to get sick, like most people. And of course, we have all those days where we're going to feel down and we just need to rest. But those are my main go tos. And they are such great investments. Um, so with that, I believe as long as I do it at least once a month, I'm good to go with everything else that I do. And I find that depending on how busy the month is, sometimes I may need to do back-to-back appointments, only because then when there is more stress on board, and again the reactions to that, because sometimes you may be okay in one aspect, but then the home life, something is happening, and then this is, we just came out of an election, right? That in
Yeah.
itself was something. So being able to deal with
Yes.
all that noise, all of that, you don't realize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so
Yeah.
much noise. And you know what we're used to? We're used to a lot of mm, background noise. Sometimes we call it white noise. I grew up always having like television in the background, and it was
Yeah.
white. I didn't have to be listening to it. It was white noise to me. But what you realize after a while is you have to really, more is getting in than you
Hmm.
realize.
Yep.
So you got to be very careful what is surrounding you,
Yep.
right?
Big.
And even just, I think just before we started today, I said, I got to do something about these notifications that keep popping up because I don't need to see all this, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's making me a little edgy. And I'm one of those people that I don't really watch when I want to know something, I will go look for it,
Hmm.
but I don't just off the cuff, okay, at 6 o'clock every day, I got to watch the news. And at this time, I got to watch this. That I don't do that because it wasn't benefiting my psyche,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so it's been years since I just sat down and said, okay, at 5 o'clock is news, and I got to watch that. At 6 o'clock
Hmm.
is news, and I got to watch that. I grew up reading newspapers,
Yep.
watching the news with my parents, because we didn't have all these channels and streaming like we do now. So you
Yeah.
watched what your parents watched, and
It.
and I just had to make that decision. So I totally agree with you. So much noise, and we don't even realize because we have so much going on that you're not even aware that you may be like this for most of the day,
Yeah.
and then wondering why you're now having pain because you were
You
like
know,
this for most of the
I,
day.
as you say that, I'm remembering when there was news about a shooting, and I kept saying to myself, "Oh, that's so horrible." But for some reason, a couple of days later, as I'm sitting there, I found myself with profound sadness. And it's like that actually did affect me because that could have been my son, you know? And I found myself tearing. And it's like, where is this coming from? And it's things like that that may occur. And yes, it could be happening to somebody else, but when we're receiving this information, of course, our body's just taking in the information. So it's very good to have awareness of what's happening, but to process it, to allow it to then be released.
Exactly. By all means, if you feel if you're one of those people that have to watch news, I'm not saying don't watch it,
Right.
but be aware how you're being affected so that you could process properly,
Yeah.
and come up with something to use one of the tools to deal
Mm-hmm.
with it properly, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But if it's one of the things that sends you spiraling, you may
Right.
need to figure out a different way to get your information.
That's it. And we tell moms, especially, do not listen to negative talk. So if that negative talk is coming from the news, then maybe you need to just, keep it off until you've had your child, because there's so much going on in the world. There's the war, everything is going on, the scarcity is going on, fearful, violence is everywhere, right? So if you get into that mindset, guess what? Even though everything is peachy and fine at home, the world globally is so falling apart. Of course you're going to be in survival mode, right? And you're not going to settle. So avoiding negative talk also may include avoiding certain family members, loving them from a distance, and just having that cocoon, literally, not just for you but for your baby, because everything you feel, they feel, and it could be by somebody else. So it could be something simple as, oh, now you're gonna see how it feels to be a mother. I was in labor with you for, 13 hours. Now here you were thinking it's payback time. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in the worst pain possible, yada yada yada. Right? Unfortunately, some moms have those
It's true.
experiences.
It's true. I think my mom never did that, but yes, it is very true. It is
So
very true.
they learn to just tune that out, and
Mm.
language is a big deal. So, in hypnobirth, we use language like, we don't say contractions, we actually say surges, or we call them waves, because the idea is that a contraction has a negative connotation. So when we say wave, it's like you're on the shore, the wave comes and goes, it's gentleness, right? And when people are always thinking of their favorite visual imagery, 80% of people like to go to the beach. They just love water. And so it makes sense why, using that language is really going to center them and allow them to have more positivity. When we are dealing with, um, I would say, what we call water breaking, it's like rupturing, like, oh my gosh, like excitement. So we actually say membrane release, which is more gentle, like, release. So there's always a very um, heavy emphasis on language and how we use it to have more positivity and the outcome that you really want. And yeah, negativity has to be tuned out.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, for you, how do you define success and balance in your professional and personal life? How do you define that?
I have a lot of goals when it comes to a bucket list. And as I'm getting older, I'm learning it's really not actually about the goal or the results, it's the progress and how I show up when I get there. How I show up when I get there, and who's with me when I get there. For example, when I had my MBA, I did an MBA online, and I just showed up to the class, unbeknownst to my colleagues, I was actually expecting. And I never had an excuse to say, oh, I'm pregnant, I'm not feeling well today, I'm just not going to show up. I'm sure they'll accept it. But no matter what, I showed up, I did the work. I actually graduated top of my class, online, University of Phoenix. And, as I,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you so much. And as all that came through, I was just sitting back like, oh, wow, what a journey, but looking back, um, it's like, I got to get this MBA, I got to get this MHA, and then I'm going to get this, that. But seeing how humbling it is as it gets there, and you're always the same person, obviously, but as you grow, like an onion, you just build more and more to it. But I found that, um, I don't know, it's just a humbling experience, and I have been so honored by how much growth has occurred with my tangible successes, but also those intangibles, my character. and being able to connect with others on a more deeper level. And the fact that it has definitely made me a better person and a better nurse, a better boss, so to speak. And I'm telling you, life is a journey, and the process
Oh,
is where
yes.
the magic is.
And that's where we get back to that mindset piece, right? Because there's a lot that you're doing, and it can either be looked at as, oh my God, there's so much on my plate, right? Right. And, which to a certain extent is self imposed, right?
Yeah.
But, you could look at it that way, or you could look at it like, but look at how much I'm learning. And there's joy in when you're learning something you want to learn. Like, I'm an avid DIYer. I love to cook. I didn't do it this year, but I love to grow vegetables and
Yes.
get my kids involved in that. I love to build things. And so, but there's joy in the learning how to do it and the figuring it out. Like I was the crazy, postpartum lady when my husband would watch our daughter in the day because he's just not a night person. So I was night. So he was watching her in the day, and that's when I'm supposed to be sleeping. Right,
Mm.
Angela? Oh, no, no. What I'm doing is teaching myself how to skim coat the
Mm.
walls in my kitchen and lay tile on the backsplash. That's what I was doing during the day because I now want that wallpaper off the kitchen walls, but
Mm.
oh my God, it just ripped this. So now I'm gonna have to learn how to skim coat, and I learned and I did it, right?
Oh,
But
wow.
it gave me joy,
Yes.
right? So it's like you said, it's part of that journey, that learning, the progression. I've built a new skill, right? Just in being able to embrace that, but also keeping in mind you are one person, so you're gonna have to prioritize. You're gonna have to make
Yes.
priorities because you can't do it all at once.
That's right.
Um, so that's super important too. And so you said something that it's the journey that you're taking and and who you're going to be, but also who is going to be there with you, right? So how do you see the role of community and support networks in helping people to achieve balance and success?
Oh, that is a necessity. Because I feel like as a community, when we are working towards the collective, we're actually more motivated to do what we have to do.
Hmm.
Um, in a sense where, if I'm going to be the best nurse that I could be for this person, when they are discharged or when they go home and they do whatever they have to do, they're going to contribute. And you know what? They could be my child's teacher. They could be the bus driver taking, my son to school. And so by being able to contribute and always being the best we are, what we're doing, it really contributes so much to the collective in a sense where it's going to be, I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect, but you make a big difference and change for this person. And they then pay it forward. Obviously, you don't have to be there to see it, but they really do pay it forward because I believe innately we all want to do good. And as funny as that may sound, but that's why with hypnobirth, when a mom is empowered, it empowers the family and empowers the community because moms are the core of the community. And with dads being the support and the pillars, together the communities are so much stronger. you know
Yeah.
Most instances you're going to notice when a family is going through a health issue, if mom is herself dealing with her own health issues, most times the family is going to have others to follow. And yet, when mom is on the health side, things turn around real quick. Even if there's a dip somehow, it's quickly reversed.
Hmm.
Versus when there's a lot going on and it's a ripple effect. Even in companies that have employees that just need, that burn out, the sick time is just used up all the time. But what is really going on here? So,
Yes.
even in
Yes.
addressing those, elements that I just mentioned of burnout and stress, if it's addressed, the community thrives because guess what? There's going to be less of that, right? People are going to show up better and they're going to contribute so much more. There's going to be more creativity. It's just abundance all the way, you know? And that's really
Yeah,
the
and I love
ultimate.
how you brought that up, that your support networks, could be your family and your friends. It could be a therapist. It could be an acupuncturist. It could be your child's teacher.
Yes.
All these people, it could be your hypnobirthing instructor. It could be your wellness and performance coach. Having support is so important. Like I tell people all the time, sis, you doing all of this work. You got a lot on your plate. Go hire that person to clean your house.
Yeah.
I like
The drop off the
go drop off
laundry,
those
if
two
that's the case.
go drop
And
off those 2 bags of laundry and
good.
let them do it and fold it, and you will pick up the folded thing, or even better, do they pick it up from your house and drop it back off? Right? Like it's these things. I wasn't feeling well. I'm one of those people, I like to go to the supermarket. My children have multiple food allergies, so I'm very
Mm,
in tune with looking on the back of things.
right.
And I like to go to the supermarket myself. I wasn't feeling well on Sunday. So I was ordering something for us to eat. And then I said, I could actually order groceries and have somebody pick that up.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I did. I kept the groceries to a minimum. Right. And had somebody pick it up, drop it off on the porch. I still wasn't feeling well. I looked at my son and I said, I need you to go get those groceries off the porch.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
employ your family. Don't baby your children too much.
That's
Let
it.
them help. That's some support to you as much as your support to them. You want balance. You want to be successful. I agree with you. You have to engage your support networks, and you don't have to have on the big cape all the time. You
Yeah.
have to engage your support networks
And that
and
reminds
and and
me.
open your eyes, because they're all around you. They're
Right.
all around you.
Yeah, honestly,
You
they're
know.
there, and it's a matter of allowing. And
Yes.
I am getting used to telling myself it's not that serious, So
Hmm.
sometimes we put so much on certain things, and it has to be this way, it has to be that way, but it's not that serious, And
True.
actually, that allows you to just okay, relax.
Yes. I always tell people one of my favorite books. I'm so bad at names, it's terrible. But one of my favorite books is called Don't Sweat the Small Things. And it's all small things. Right? And I'm like, that title alone, right? Because
That's it.
so much, I'm not saying there's not big things that happen, but
Mhm.
so much, a large percentage of the things that we blow up in our minds are really not as big
Isn't
as
that
we make
something?
them out to be.
Yeah.
And if we can realize that, we can watch our stress go
Yes.
like this.
That's it. That's it.
We can watch it go down, down, down. So this has been so wonderful. I do have one more question for you.
Yeah.
But before we do that, for those of you who are still here, thank you so much. If you haven't already, please like this episode. Please comment below, share it with a friend. Okay. You can watch the episode on YouTube, listen to it on YouTube, or listen to wherever you listen to your podcast. If you have not liked the episode already, what are you waiting for? Let's like up the episode. Okay, thumbs up. So, this is my last question for you, Angela. And you could pick any time in your life, your career. What do you know now that you wish you knew then?
That it's going to be okay. I don't have to overplan. I just have to show up.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And you didn't say I don't have to plan. You said I don't have to over plan, because a lot
Yes.
of us over.
Oh,
I've been guilty of
oh yeah.
that. I've been
Was
guilty of
me.
that.
Like I knew by
Yeah.
25, I want to start having my babies. And sure enough, by 25, I had my first child. By this age, by 5 years, by this, that, and it's like, oh, live a little, you know. So I've learned to unplan actually, and it's been quite interesting. Sometimes I have to talk myself out of it, but I have seen the beauty of what opportunities that I may have missed by just sticking to this one thing that I see has to happen. And by staying open,
Mm-hmm.
so much more things have actually unraveled and have added
Right.
more joy to my life.
And by all means, have a plan, have some goals, and do the work, but also have some faith. I think we get so stuck on this one thing that this one thing has to happen the way we said it
Yeah,
for it to be our big win. But along the way, we don't see the small wins that were happening. We don't give credence to those small wins unless this big win took
yeah,
place, right? So you got to celebrate all along the way, open your eyes to what your small wins are too.
that's it.
That's very good. I like that. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much. We thank you, Angela, for coming on. What I want to know is how can people connect with you?
Yes, I actually hang out on Instagram and LinkedIn. And on Instagram, they could just look me up by my name, Angella Kiwanuka Booth, and on Instagram, LifeSpark. And of course, my website, lifesparkllc.com.
Wonderful. That will be down below. So please feel free to reach out because as you heard, yes, she is a hypnobirthing specialist. Yes, but she's also in health and wellness, right? So please feel free to connect. Always good information from Angela. It doesn't miss, right? Thank you so much, Angela, for coming on and being a guest on the Balance to Excellence show today.
Thank you. And before I forget, there's actually a class coming up in December for hypnobirth moms, virtual, of course. And I look forward to hearing from anyone. And thank you so much, Dr. Judy. This was a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure too. Can they see about the class both on LinkedIn and Instagram?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, guys. Go out, do great things, right? But remember to take care of yourself. Stay calm, stay stress reduced, stay balanced. And we'll talk soon.